The majority of drummers, especially beginners, struggle with their feet. Maybe their feet can't play as quickly as their hands, or their feet just aren't as well coordinated as their hands. And to be fair, our feet are up against a bigger challenge of having to operate pieces of mechanics compared to our hands are just, playing with the sticks. And our hands are naturally more dexterous than our feet are because it's just the way the human body is. However, the deeper problem here really is that the feet are just not well connected with the brain, and so we're struggling to play things with our feet that we actually ought to be able to play. The feet tend to be clumsy and incapable compared to the hands, and it's not just because they're feet. It's because we're failing to practice our feet well, which is really frustrating for so many drummers because, we're told to practice on our pad and, do this hand stuff. And so many drummers do that, but then they get on the full kit and everything that they've practiced and they've sounded so good on the pad doing really falls apart on the whole kit and just doesn't come together because the feet are the weakest link. And if your kick drum is not tight, if your kick drum's having issues, then it's going to throw the hands off, and it won't matter how good your hands are. The whole groove and the whole thing is not going to come together, which is super discouraging. Maybe you've been there. I've had students be in this place, and I've had to help them move out of it. What if this isn't the way it has to be? What if there's a way to move past this? What if your feet could actually become just as capable as your hands? What would this mean for your drumming and for your overall creativity? My feet were once completely useless too. Nobody just comes into drumming being able to play stuff with their feet. I think naturally our hands are more capable than our feet. We have to work harder for the feet. And so playing like patterns, mixing the feet into the hands really was impossible for me early on. But then I heard a teacher teach this interesting, simple, but very what? Really? That's what'll work? Concept that helped me so much. Most drummers are failing to do the one thing that will deliver the fastest foot chops possible. And it's this: practice with your feet the same things you practice with your hands. So practice the same simple patterns with your feet that you might normally do with your hands on your practice pad, and you'll build more speed and coordination as a result. If you neglect to do this, then your feet will always become an afterthought. So let me ask you this: how many hours have you spent in the last year practicing just your feet? Odds are you've spent a handful of hours practicing just your hands and then maybe trying to combine them. But how many hours have you spent just practicing your feet? Odds are this is the issue. So back to my story, what I heard of was this drummer who was like, if you want to have more foot coordination, like more foot independence, just practice singles, doubles, and paradiddles with your feet. I was like, well, that seems so obvious. Why have I never done that? And so I sat down and I started practicing singles, doubles, paradiddles. Then I started getting creative and doing different things with my hands on top of that. And sure enough, my feet became so much more independent and able to play syncopatedly, if that's a word. My left foot timekeeping got better, and my left foot really became more of a creative voice because suddenly I was forcing my left foot into the mix. So maybe that's you. You've struggled with the left foot, right foot's not locked in. You need more capable feet. This is how you're going to get there. This is what helped me a whole bunch. So we're breaking this down into 4 simple steps, 4 steps to more capable feet, so that your feet are effortlessly playing what you want them to play, and they're no longer an afterthought, they're no longer cumbersome, they're no longer dragging you down, they're no longer the weakest link. Let's dive in today. You can do this. Hey, welcome to The Non-Glamorous Drummer. I'm so glad you're hanging out today. I help self-taught beginner drummers know what to practice so that you're nailing songs, sounding awesome with a band, and becoming that drummer that people want to jam with. Hey, it's hard to play songs well, and it's hard to jam well if your feet are holding you back. We gotta get the feet solid, especially the right foot, because that's the foundation of your rock groove. So hopefully today's really gonna help you out. This is something you can follow along with me. Sit down at your kit and get ready to play along. Step number 1, singles with the feet. So I kind of gave you the big picture of where we're going. This is super straightforward. I'm just gonna kind of show you what to look out for, how to practice this, and some different variations and ways to do this. And we'll wrap up with how to make up some of your own patterns, how to improvise a little bit. So step 1 is singles. We want to just simply play singles with our feet. Now it's super simple. But if you've never done that before, no matter how simple this is, it's probably going to be a little bit sloppy. So the thing to focus on is that left foot, making sure it's actually happening between the right foot notes. So go as slow as you need to. Also practice left foot lead and go. Whatever you need to do to focus on getting that even. This is where recording yourself and listening back can be really helpful if you're new to this, just to help you know what to listen for. And so as you're listening back to a recording, ask yourself, does that sound smooth? Bum, chun, 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 chun. If you clap along, does that feel like a smooth, steady tempo? And of course, if you have a double bass pedal, you can do this with a double bass pedal. That makes it even easier because then you're hearing the same sound. So it's easier to tell whether or not you're consistent. However, I found this kind of practicing with the feet to be just as effective, if not more effective, with left foot on hi-hat. And so either way, whichever way you practice it, left foot on hi-hat, left foot on the left pedal, either way is going to deliver some really fantastic results in your playing. So get your singles going. But what we want to quickly start doing in our playing is not just, doing hands and then doing feet, though that is important in practicing, like to just practice some things with our hands and focus on our grip and motion, practice some things with our feet, focus on what we're doing down there. But we want to start mixing things together as quickly as possible. As soon as you can see that, okay, my right foot is comfortable, feeling good down there, I've got a nice smooth beater bounce. By the way, if you're a beater barrier, I encourage you to practice bouncing the beater. I would suggest that that's going to give you a better sound, a better feel from your leg. It's going to be more effortless. That's kind of become our theme in so many of these lessons. We want our drumming to be as effortless as possible. And a huge way to do that is to not press into things. If we're pressing into something, that's effort, that's strain. How can we make it effortless? Just snap the beater forward, let it come back. What I'm doing with my left foot here is I'm playing heel up, where I just bounce my heel to keep left foot time. So this makes left foot timekeeping pretty effortless in a full groove if I go. And so I'll just bounce my heel like that, and so that makes the timekeeping easy. When you're doing just the feet singles like this, you can have your left heel down if you want, or practice heel up. But just watch what my left foot's doing. You can decide if you want to do the same thing or not. Some drummers like to be heel up over here and heel down here. I like to be heel down over here and heel up here. And so find what works for you. Of course, I encourage you to copy what I'm doing because it feels great to me. We're all different. We all have different ways of approaching and ways of playing. And so as long as we're getting the same end result of smoothness and we're developing the speed and the coordination we need with our feet, then don't worry too much about it. So singles, we've got the singles going. Let's now add in right hand eighth notes matching the right foot. I'm calling those eighths. They could be quarters. It depends on how you're counting. If we were to count what the feet are doing as sixteenths, 1 E and 2 E and then we're doing eighth notes here. Also, for good measure, practice that with left foot lead singles. You may find that right hand to left foot relationship is a little awkward, but that's something you really want to solidify in your drumming if you're ever going to do left foot timekeeping, because if we're keeping time with the left foot and maybe the right hand in a tom groove, for example, a lot of times right hand and left foot are doing the same thing. Obviously it depends on the groove, but so many times even in the case of that fill, right hand was playing. So all that to say, getting comfortable with right hand and left foot playing together is a super practical thing to practice. And so do it that way as well, just for good measure. But let's switch back to right foot lead. What we now want to do is add in snare backbeats to make this kind of feel like a groove. All the while, make sure you're not hurrying through this. I know I'm moving quickly. We got a lot to cover in our 20 or 30 minutes here. But make sure that you're not rushing through your practicing of this, because odds are if you're doing this for the first time, it's probably not going to sound good. Like, let's just be honest, the first time you do anything on the drums, it's not going to sound good. And so we can't always assume that the first time you play it, oh, you're good, cool, let's move on to the next thing, even though we are moving on to next things in this lesson. Just because I'm doing that doesn't mean your practice session should follow what I'm teaching here in this video. Does that make sense? And so you'll need to pause here and make sure, okay, as I add all this together, is everything still tight? Maybe you need to remove the right foot for a second. Maybe you just need to do left foot and right hand. So listen to everything together again. If we were to remove the kick and the snare, we end up with maybe that's weird for you. Maybe you need to practice that. So just do that. Maybe, here's a really weird one, maybe you need to do just the left side, left foot and left hand. It might help to like tap your leg on the downbeat because there's nothing there. Maybe that's what you need to focus on. Practicing in layers. I like to call this horizontal practicing, like looking at the layers of everything and removing certain layers so we can focus on other layers. So make sure that all the layers are functioning properly, that everything is getting tight and getting smooth, because there's no use in moving on to step 2 or step 3 or step 4 in this lesson if that's not feeling good. So it's totally fine. I will not hold it against you if you stop the video now and you say, okay, Steven, I got to stop here. I'm going to go practice this for a little bit, and I'll come back later. That's totally fine. You can come back later, or you can watch the rest of the lesson now and just know you've got to take this in stride step by step. So step 2, we're going to do doubles with the feet. Now, this presents some unique challenges because, well, suddenly we're playing 2 notes in a row on the kick and 2 notes in a row on the hats, which is a little weird. But if you don't go that fast, it's not that big a deal. You know, we're not trying to do something crazy. We're not going... We could go that fast, and inevitably the first of the 2 hi-hat chicks becomes a splash, because there is a physical limit to how fast you can play hi-hat chicks. If we're going, you know, for one thing, your leg can only bounce so fast, and it gets kind of crazy. Mechanically speaking, there is a limit to how fast you can go. But there's not so much a limit as to how capable your left foot can become, and how well connected your left foot can become with your brain. That's why I wanted to make that distinction back at the beginning of our goal. Yes, we want to make our feet as fast as our hands. We want our feet to be able to do the things our hands do. But at the same time, our feet, they are our feet, and they are operating pieces of machinery. And so there is a limit to how fast your left foot can go. There is a limit to how fast your right foot can go. You could get one, you know, depending on what pedal you have, that's going to eventually allow you to go faster once you've developed your foot to a certain point. And there's all sorts of different techniques to do that are beyond today's lesson. Versus with our hands, it's pretty effortless to get faster as you learn doubles. Like we talked about last week, doubles, it's pretty effortless to go fast. It's not that effortless to blaze through crazy double speed with our feet, right? It's just different. So what we want to think about here is it's not so much getting faster and faster and faster. Yes, we want our feet to be able to play what our hands can play, but we want our feet to become just as capable of our hands. Really, that's the word. Does that make sense? Where we want our feet to have the same capability of our hands, the same comfort level as our hands, so that they can be an active part in anything we play and not have to be a cumbersome afterthought. So I say all that to say, the goal is not speed with the foot doubles here. The goal is cleanliness and precision. So just try playing like that, nice and slow. So now our eighth notes end up lining up with both a right foot and a left foot, because at the beginning we have, that's what's happening, and then we have back and forth between and. So it's always good to be aware of the intricacies of what's happening. This was something I've realized in hindsight. So as a kid, I played piano growing up from when I was in 3rd grade all the way through high school. And I realized later on, I got into drums mid-high school and really got deep into the drums through college. and then started like playing professionally around that time. Never really went pro with piano, but piano was a really good like starter instrument for me. But looking back, I realized there was a level of like self-awareness that I never reached with piano, where I wasn't actually fully aware of what every finger was doing. But I found that I was beginning to reach that awareness with the drums. And I feel like in a way it's easier to reach that awareness with the drums because there's not 88 keys. And so instead of, 8 fingers and 2 thumbs, we kind of just have 2 hands and 2 feet and these things in front of us. So what we want to make sure we're doing is we're becoming aware of exactly what we're actually playing. On piano as a kid, I never really did that, so I would mess up easily and not be able to recover. If you ever mess up on the drums and you're not able to recover, it's because your brain was not fully grasping what you were playing. In other words, what you were playing was kind of at the edge of your ability and it wasn't fully under your control. But if you can be fully aware of what you're playing, like in this case, okay, I'm aware that the first eighth note locks in with a right foot, the second eighth note locks in with the left foot, and then we're back to the right foot. And it's the first of each pair that locks in with the right hand. The more you can be declaratively aware of that, the more solid you're going to get this. So there's declarative memory and there's procedural memory. Declarative memory is knowing what the thing is, like what is it that we're doing? How can we describe what we're doing? Okay, the way we can describe this is that we're doing doubles with our feet. So that means a pair of kick notes, a pair of hi-hat notes. Every first note of each pair locks in with the right hand playing on the right. That's how we can describe what we're doing. And so I might be able to describe that to another drummer, and that drummer could then play that. But then the procedural memory is actually doing it and actually getting a feel for it and being able to feel it and just not have to think about everything happening, but just do it. That's what happens with repetition, but it starts with the declarative side. So we have declared verbally what we're doing, and now we're working on getting it tucked away into our procedural memory. And then we want to add in our snare backbeats like we did with the singles. So we can make a declarative note that every time we play a backbeat, it is with the right foot. It'll always happen like that. We'll have both hands land like that with a kick drum double. So if anything's not tight, that might be a spot to zero in on. So we talked about the horizontal, practicing in layers, thinking about the layers. We also want to think about vertically slices. As we're playing through this, we might realize there's a certain spot that's a little shaky. And so maybe the shaky spot is the backbeat. So zero in on that, practice that really slow. Maybe right foot just doesn't want to lock with left hand. That's a common issue. Practice locking those together at different volumes, getting them more tight like that, and then begin zooming out. Until it can start feeling smooth. So if you're still with me at this point, I know that you are becoming a better practicer, because what we're doing is we're slowly and methodically going through this. This could be a 5-minute lesson. Half the people out there don't want to go into the level of practicing depth that you are going into because you're still sticking with me right here. But without going into this practicing depth, you're never going to master this. I could say, all right, here's our patterns. Here's our next pattern. Okay, we're done. That's what too many drummers on YouTube do, where they blaze through stuff. Okay, do this, do that. Here's the notation. Have fun, go practice. But we're not teaching how to practice. That's what's important here. And so you've got to go slowly, methodically, pay attention to what you're doing. This is how you put this stuff together. And if you're patient enough, as I can tell you are, if you're still here with me, you're going to do great with this. So now step 3, paradiddles. Same format here. We want to play the paradiddles first. Right, left, right, left, right, left, left. which technically speaking, if we look at the building blocks of it, a paradiddle is a single and then a double. And so we're just mixing singles and doubles together and then inverting it. And so really cool, really fun thing to practice. And this presents some interesting challenges when we start adding in the hands. Odds are the first time you do that, it's going to be a mess. So declarative memory. So we want to think about what is the right hand locking in with as we add our eighth notes into the paradiddle. Well, at the beginning, it's locking in with the right foot. Right, right, left, right, right. But then comes the inverse, the inversion of that, which means the next two eighth notes are going to lock in with the left foot. So I'll do that again. So at the beginning we have right, left, right, right. So that means right hand is locking in with the right foot, the first two eighth notes. And then we have left, right, left, left. So it means right hand is locking in with the left foot for the second part. Like that. So what helped me in practicing this was understanding that's the difference here. So for the first half, right hand locks with right foot. Second half, right hand locks with left foot. If you don't make that clear and tell yourself that's what's happening and understand that's what's happening, you're going to put it all together and it'll tumble down the hill and crash and burn. So you got to go really slow and know what you're doing. It can also be helpful, so I'm not putting notation on the screen here for you. It can be helpful to be thinking through what this is without actually having the notation, forming pictures in your mind of what should this look like? How am I seeing this? How am I thinking of this? That's an important skill as a drummer. Like learning notation is great, but I don't always want to spoon feed you notation. I want you to hear what I'm doing and be able to practice based on what you see me doing, and even mentally practice as you watch me do it, because that's another powerful skill. That's something, one of my favorite examples to talk about. There's a really great Blue Angels documentary on, I think it's on Prime, and it's all about the Blue Angels. And there's this part where it shows them mentally practicing, where they're all sitting around a table and they're all like hunched over, and they're like doing with their hands the things that they would be doing in the fighter jet, but they're rehearsing the entire air show mentally, and they're like calling out stuff to each other, and they're just sitting there doing this. I heard from somebody that the Navy SEALs do the same thing as they prepare for missions. And so they're mentally practicing. They're going through the entire thing mentally, imagining themselves doing it clearly in their minds so that they're as prepared as they can possibly be. Because in an industry like that, you can only do so much physical preparation. Obviously, you do a lot of the physical preparation, but you do a lot of mental too. And it turns out the mental can be just as powerful. So we want to utilize that on the drums as well. So what you might find helpful is just watching me play this, watching from my foot camera down here, imagining my feet are your feet, playing the paradiddles. And then from the overhead camera up here, I'm adding in my right hand. Imagine that your right hand is my right hand, your feet are my feet. Now we'll add in our backbeat, which we can go ahead and make a note of beforehand. It's going to line up with the left foot. Like that. No need to really go much faster than that, because what I discovered as I started practicing this years ago was the power was not in doing anything fast. It wasn't trying to go. That's really hard to do with the left foot on hi-hat anyways, and it kind of turns into a mess. And how often are you going to use that in a song? The power behind this is not the speed. The power is the capability that we're giving our feet to play what we want them to play when we want them to play it. So step 4 of improvising, we want to start making up our own foot parts underneath just a simple money beat and ultimately underneath whatever your hands might be doing. In other words, what if we go back to our singles pattern? What if we just remove a bunch of kick notes? What might that give us? That's pretty cool. That's something you might not have been able to ever imagine yourself playing. But if you can play the singles with money beat on top, then why couldn't you remove a bunch of the kick drum notes and just play? It's literally nothing new. We're just removing some kick notes. Same with the doubles. What if we did... The interesting challenge you face there is how it feels different when you remove a component. So it's like, wait a second, without the right foot, what's the left foot doing? So it makes you think about it. It makes you analyze it in a new way, feel it in a new way, and actually learn it more deeply and realize, hey, this is kind of cool. Like, look at what my left foot's doing. So what I challenge you to do here is play like simple grooves with space where you might only play the bass drum on the downbeat, just on beat one. And then instead of putting all of your like creative brain power into your right foot to play a kick drum pattern the way you might normally do in a rock groove, instead send all of that to the left foot. So instead of going, so you could do that, but what if we sent a bunch of those notes, a bunch of that information from our brains to our left foot instead of our right? What if we did... You can get really funky because you can start mixing chicks with splashes too. My splashes were a little weak there because I need to adjust the angle of my bottom hat. You might notice that too. If you do a splash and there's not enough, sizzle, you might just need to increase the angle of your bottom hi-hat. That way there's some more, splashing interaction. Yeah, that's a little better. So if we did that. And you know what another way is to practice this? If you're having a hard time just putting that much focus into your left foot, reverse your kit, practice on a backwards kit where suddenly left foot is having to play the kick drum patterns, and then talk about effortless. This really becomes natural and effortless. This was kind of another bonus step that helped me a lot. There was a time when I was teaching beginner students and I would sit on a backwards kit mirroring them so that I could be sitting here playing like this and they could just mirror me, and it really helped them because in a way it's kind of like they could see what I'm doing and try to match it as closely as they can. There's a lot of power behind that too in like watching someone play and imagining you do it, like you're mirroring them. So in doing a lot of that, I was relearning all the basics backwards, and that helped my left foot too. So just an additional tip for you. Okay, one final crazy thing I want to throw at you for you more advanced players who are tuning in today and who are still with me here. Something else really challenging, but also really cool, is trying to play singles with your hands over paradiddles with your feet. Let's see if I can do it. So I'm going to start with the paradiddles. Okay, I did it. It's not easy. It's one of those things that it's mind-bending. Now you can get even crazier with this, and here I'm going to throw at you some crazy things that I have not practiced lately, so I'm not going to try to attempt it for you. Doing different hand stickings over foot paradiddles. So going down the page in stick control, doing different hand stickings over foot paradiddles, over foot doubles. You can start out doing it over foot singles, which is a lot easier, but even doing paradiddles with your hand over foot singles, it's a little bit mind-bending. But this is nothing new. This is similar to a method that the legendary teacher years ago, Alan Dawson, would have his students do, where he had a system of doing rudiments with your hands over rudiments with your feet and like mixing them up in all these crazy ways. And so that's one of those ways that it'll blow your mind and bend your brain, but it'll really push your coordination and just your ability to do anything with your feet and anything with your hands and not have them interfere with each other, which is ultimately what we want. So hey, if you're there, if you're at that level to tackle that, go for it. Just something, an extra fun little tidbit for you. but make sure that you're getting the singles solid, the doubles, then the paradiddles, and practice testing out some of the improvisation and seeing, what if I could make my left foot be the melodic voice in my groove for a minute instead of the bass drum? That's a fun challenge. So hey, question for you as you go. How much time have you spent practicing hands versus practicing feet? I asked you that back at the beginning. How many hours have you spent in the last year just practicing your feet versus just practicing your hands? If that is lopsided, then you know why you've been having foot issues at this point, and your answer to that question probably determines where you should focus now. So I hope today's provided you with a whole bunch of value. I hope this has been helpful, and hey, if you stick with me through like all 30 minutes of these deep how to practice this stuff lessons, then you're going to go far, because these are the things that take you far. This is how you master the drums. You don't just watch a 5-minute YouTube video and then play through a bunch of drills and try to play stuff really fast. That's not going to get you to drumming mastery. If you want to master the drums, where drumming becomes effortless and really fun for you, where things actually feel easy, this is how you do it. It's a slow, methodical process requiring patience, but if you stick with me through these long lessons, I have no doubt that you're going to be able to do it too. So have a lot of fun. Know that you can do this. As always, stay non-glamorous. I'll see you on the next lesson.